Welcome back to our channel. Today we uncover the intricate and captivating life of Laurence Olivier, a name synonymous with theatrical brilliance. Revered as one of the greatest actors of all time, Olivier's life behind the curtain was equally dramatic, filled with triumphs, heartbreaks, and secrets that only came to light years later. Join us as we explore the riveting journey of this legendary figure, from his tumultuous childhood to the controversies and passion that defined his personal and professional life. Let's start with his early life and the roots of his passion for acting. Laurence Olivier, born as Lawrence Kerr Olivier on May 22, 1907 in Dorking, Surrey, is often celebrated as one of the greatest actors of his generation, if not of all time. But behind the bright lights and roaring applause lay a man grappling with painful secrets. In his memoirs, Sir Laurence Olivier made a shocking confession. He once had a brief affair with a male friend. For years, many believed he was referring to his mentor, Noel Coward. However, when Olivier's personal letters were uncovered, the real story finally came to light. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. Olivier's childhood was shaped by both drama and tragedy. His father, a man with a flair for theatricality, once dreamed of becoming a stage actor before settling into his role as a priest in the Anglican Church. Young Laurence found himself captivated by his father's weekly sermons, which seamlessly moved from quiet reverence to powerful admonition, often with a touch of humor. This early exposure to performance ignited a spark in Laurence. He earned a spot at the All Saints Choir School, where he began performing in Shakespeare plays, showcasing his budding talent. But amid these early achievements came a devastating blow. During this time, doctors discovered that Laurence's mother, Agnes, was battling a brain tumor. It is reported that in a heartbreaking moment during a visit home, Agnes embraced her son tightly and whispered, "Goodbye, my darling." Just 2 weeks later, Laurence's worst fears came true. His mother passed away. He was only 12 years old, and her death left an indelible mark on his young life, shaking his world to its core. After leaving All Saints, Laurence Olivier attended St. Edward's School, where he threw himself wholeheartedly into school plays, so much so that he neglected pretty much everything else. He was a delicate, underweight teenager and often played female roles in productions. This experience led to some personal experimentation with his male schoolmates, a part of his life that would later spark much speculation about his private life. Following his time at St. Edward's, Laurence joined the Central School of Speech Training and Dramatic Arts, where his older sister Sibylle was also a student. His father approved of this path, but there was a catch. Laurence would have to manage on his own financially. Thankfully, the school was eager to recruit male students, so he secured a scholarship, and his journey into professional acting began to take shape. It wasn't long before romance entered the picture. During a play, Laurence became smitten with his co-star actress Jill Esmond. By the third week of the production, he proposed to her, but her response was far from what he had hoped for. Not only did she reject him, but she also revealed she was heading to Broadway. Yet Laurence, ever determined, wasn't about to let an entire ocean stand in his way. At just 21 years old, and with little experience in relationships, his past encounters had all been with boys from school. Laurence followed Jill to New York. He was desperate to marry her and experience what life with a woman could be like. While Jill eventually accepted a ring, she remained hesitant about the idea of marriage. Was this an early sign of trouble ahead? When Laurence returned to England to wait for Jill to finish her run on Broadway, he encountered a heartbreaking family crisis. His sister Sibylle, who had recently become a mother, was battling severe mental health issues. She suffered from frequent screaming fits and, at one point, even attempted to give her baby to a group of nuns. Laurence made the difficult decision to have her committed to a mental institution, a decision he would tragically have to repeat with another woman he loved later in life. Laurence Olivier's early life was marked by relentless determination, personal challenges, and heart-wrenching family struggles, setting the stage for the remarkable yet tumultuous journey that lay ahead. Now let's dive into his relationships and how they shaped his career. In June 1930, Laurence Olivier and Jill Esmond walked down the aisle, but it didn't take long for both of them to realize they had made a terrible mistake. Unfortunately, by then, it was too late. Laurence chose to escape the unhappiness of his crumbling marriage by immersing himself in work. Laurence Olivier and Jill Esmond's marriage in June 1930 was a union born out of youthful ambition and the intoxicating allure of potential love, but it quickly unraveled into a poignant story of mismatch and regret. While the pair may have seemed well-suited on the surface, their relationship lacked the deep emotional connection and mutual understanding necessary to withstand the pressures of both personal life and professional ambition. Jill Esmond, an accomplished actress in her own right, captivated Olivier during their stage performances together. Olivier, then just beginning to make a name for himself, was smitten by her poise and beauty. His eagerness to marry her stemmed partly from a desire to fulfill conventional expectations of adulthood, and partly from an almost desperate yearning for stability in his personal life. However, their union was rushed, leaving little time for the couple to truly assess their compatibility. Shortly after their wedding, the incompatibilities in their personalities and priorities began to emerge. Jill, more reserved and introspective, seemed to lack the fiery ambition and drive that characterized Olivier. Conversely, Olivier, a man driven by an insatiable hunger for greatness, often prioritized his burgeoning career over the emotional needs of his wife. Olivier, inexperienced and eager to explore the complexities of love and marriage, seemed to view Jill as a means to this discovery. However, Jill's more indifferent stance toward their physical relationship only deepened Olivier's sense of disconnection and frustration. Realizing the extent of their marital discord, Olivier found solace in the one place that consistently rewarded his efforts, the stage. Immersing himself in his craft allowed him to escape the reality of his crumbling marriage. During this time, Olivier's performances became increasingly intense and passionate, perhaps fueled by the emotional turmoil he experienced at home. This escape into work, while cathartic for Olivier, only widened the chasm between him and Jill as he became emotionally unavailable. While Olivier's career was taking off, one mysterious performance added to his legend. Here's the story about Laurence, but it is unconfirmed. Imagine a cold winter night in 1934 London, the kind where fog wraps the city like a ghostly veil. Laurence Olivier, already a rising star, was set to perform in a secret, experimental play that few knew about. The story goes that the production was unlike anything audiences had ever seen, a blend of surrealism, Shakespearean verse, and eerie, dreamlike visuals. Olivier had agreed to star in it as a favor to an obscure playwright he admired. Legend has it that as the opening night approached, the pressure of his other commitments and personal struggles weighed heavily on him. But Laurence, always the perfectionist, refused to let the stress show. In fact, those close to him claimed he was oddly calm, almost too calm. On the night of the performance, everything seemed normal until midway through the play. The scene was an emotionally charged soliloquy where Olivier's character grapples with a painful secret. As Olivier delivered his lines, his voice broke with an authenticity so raw that the audience fell into a hushed, almost reverent silence. But then something strange happened. Witnesses described a moment where Olivier seemed to lose himself entirely in the role. He fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face, clutching his chest as if the weight of the world had landed there. The audience erupted into applause, thinking it was part of the act. But backstage, his co-stars and director were frozen because they knew this wasn't in the script. Olivier reportedly walked off stage after that scene, leaving the cast and crew bewildered. He never returned for the second act. The audience, sensing the unprecedented nature of what they had witnessed, began murmuring among themselves, unsure if the play was over or merely taking a dramatic turn. Later, Olivier dismissed the incident as an artistic choice, but those present backstage had another theory. Some claimed he had channeled something deeply personal during that performance, dredging up a hidden memory or unresolved trauma. A few even whispered about a curse tied to the script, a story so haunting that it affected anyone who performed it. The play was abruptly canceled after its first night, and no script has ever been found. To this day, theater historians debate whether it ever truly existed, but the story of Laurence Olivier's mysterious performance has endured, adding yet another layer to the legend of a man who could make fiction feel more real than reality itself. Jill, too, faced her own challenges during the marriage. As Olivier's star began to rise, her career faced stagnation, and she was often overshadowed by her husband's growing fame. This imbalance likely bred resentment and a sense of isolation. Furthermore, rumors of Jill's same-sex relationships added another layer of complexity to their union, suggesting that both partners were seeking fulfillment outside of their marriage. Despite the birth of their son Tarquin, the marriage could not be salvaged. By the late 1930s, it was clear that the bond between Olivier and Jill had eroded beyond repair. Jill's reluctance to grant Olivier a divorce added to the tension, though it was ultimately granted in 1940, freeing Olivier to marry Vivien Leigh. Olivier and Jill Esmond's marriage, though brief and troubled, played a significant role in shaping the actor's emotional and professional journey. It highlighted his intense need for passion and connection, qualities he would later seek and find in his relationship with Vivien Leigh. For Jill, the marriage was perhaps a painful reminder of the challenges faced by women in the shadow of powerful men, even those with talent and ambition of their own. Their union, marked by early promise and eventual heartbreak, serves as a poignant chapter in Olivier's complex life story, a reminder that even the greatest figures in history grapple with the deeply human struggle to balance love, ambition, and identity. Around this time, Noel Coward, one of London's most celebrated playwrights, caught Olivier on stage. Coward was so impressed by his talent that he cast Laurence in Private Lives. The play became a massive success, catapulting Olivier's career to new heights. Noel Coward wasn't just a mentor, he became a close friend. When Private Lives moved to New York, they needed a leading lady and made a practical choice: Jill Esmond. In London, critics hailed Olivier as the next big thing, but in the U.S., the spotlight was on Jill. Hollywood soon came calling, offering her a lucrative deal. Fox Studios was willing to pay $875 a week, a huge leap from her modest £8 salary in London. Eventually, Olivier received a similar offer, and Jill made the decision for both of them to head to Hollywood for a year to earn as much as they could. The couple quickly found themselves mingling with the Hollywood elite, but their social success didn't translate to career triumphs. After a string of box office flops, Olivier returned to his true passion, the London stage. By this time, Jill had grown distant, losing interest in their marriage and secretly engaging in affairs with other women. Despite their troubles, the couple managed to conceive a child, and Olivier hoped the baby might heal their fractured relationship. But even after the birth of their son, it was clear the damage was irreparable. Laurence threw himself back into his work, tackling Shakespeare with unmatched intensity. In a single year, he mastered over 12,000 lines from the Bard's plays, performing with relentless dedication. Then one evening after a performance of Romeo and Juliet, fate introduced him to Vivien Leigh. She approached him at a restaurant to praise his performance, and her beauty and charm left him utterly captivated. For Laurence, meeting Vivien was love at first sight, and he couldn't resist pursuing her. Vivien was no stranger to infidelity, and soon the two began a passionate affair. Their on-screen chemistry in the film Fire Over England only added fuel to their romance. In 1937, Laurence was invited to play Hamlet at Elsinore, the very Danish castle where Shakespeare's play is set. He subtly suggested that Vivien be cast as Ophelia, giving them even more time together. But during the rehearsals, Vivien began to exhibit troubling behavior. One day, she erupted in a screaming fit at Laurence, only to go silent and later claim she had no memory of the incident. It was a chilling moment, and sadly, a sign of darker times ahead. When they returned to England, both Laurence and Vivien told their spouses they were leaving them, but breaking free wasn't easy. Jill, despite her own infidelities, refused to grant Laurence a divorce. Vivien faced similar resistance from her husband. Undeterred, the pair moved in together and pressed on with their relationship. Laurence headed back to Hollywood to star as Heathcliff in Wuthering Heights, while Vivien set her sights on an even greater prize, the role of Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind. The casting of Scarlett and Rhett Butler was the talk of the town, and many believed Laurence had a shot at the role of Rhett. But while he focused on his film, Vivien campaigned fiercely for the part of Scarlett. Though Laurence supported Vivien's ambitions, he had no love for Hollywood and returned to the stage as soon as Wuthering Heights wrapped. Meanwhile, Vivien achieved cinematic immortality with her iconic portrayal in Gone with the Wind. Their love story, like the roles they played, was full of passion, ambition, and conflict, setting the stage for the highs and lows that would define their lives together. During their time apart, Laurence Olivier and Vivien Leigh stayed in touch through letters and phone calls. Olivier's letters were passionate and often explicit declarations of his love and longing, while Leigh's phone calls revealed her growing jealousy. Then one night, tragedy nearly struck. After a heated phone argument, Leigh accidentally overdosed on sleeping pills. Thankfully, her maid was able to revive her after a frantic scramble, but it was a terrifying wake-up call. Leigh apologized, but her fragility was becoming more and more evident, worsened by the distance between them and her grueling days filming Gone with the Wind. Olivier soon returned to Hollywood to star in Rebecca and Pride and Prejudice. In both cases, he pushed for Leigh to be cast as his co-star, but the studios flatly rejected the idea. At the time, they were both still married to other people, and the optics weren't great. Finally, in 1940, their respective spouses agreed to divorces, and Olivier and Leigh wasted no time. That August, they exchanged rings in a private ceremony in Santa Barbara. As newlyweds, they eagerly jumped into new acting projects, but the honeymoon phase didn't last long. With World War II escalating, Olivier felt a strong sense of duty to contribute in some way. While many British actors were encouraged to stay in Hollywood and make films that portrayed Britain in a positive light, Olivier and Leigh teamed up with director Alexander Korda to create that Hamilton woman. Unfortunately, the passion they shared in love letters didn't translate well to real life. Their obsessive relationship began to strain, and Leigh started drinking heavily on set. Olivier returned to England to work with his friend Ralph Richardson at the Old Vic Theatre, helping to keep it open during the war to boost public morale. His contributions to the stage didn't go unnoticed. In his fourth year at the Old Vic, King George VI knighted Olivier, making him the youngest actor to ever receive the honor. Around this time, Olivier also directed and starred in a film adaptation of Hamlet, which won both Best Picture and Best Actor at the Academy Awards. In 1948, Olivier and Lee embarked on a grueling 6-month tour of Australia and New Zealand with the Old Vic Company. It tested their marriage to the breaking point. Olivier later admitted, "I lost Vivian in Australia." Lee had started an affair with actor Peter Finch, and adding insult to injury, Olivier himself hired Finch for his production company. Behind his back, Finch was carrying on a relationship with Lee. But the betrayals didn't end there. While Lee was filming A Streetcar Named Desire with Marlon Brando, rumors swirled about Olivier's own indiscretions, including an embrace with Brando that didn't go unnoticed by their peers. Both Olivier and Lee were fighting private battles, she with her mental health and he with the toll her erratic behavior was taking on their relationship. Eventually, they sought medical help and discovered that Lee was suffering from manic depression, now known as bipolar disorder. While the diagnosis provided clarity, it didn't offer a solution. Her mood swings became more extreme, and their relationship continued to deteriorate. In 1953, Lee returned from a film shoot with Finch and confessed to Olivier that she was in love with him, demanding a divorce. Although Lee's affair with Finch ended, her mental health continued to spiral. She suffered public breakdowns, including screaming fits in her dressing room and disturbing incidents that required sedation. Olivier, heartbroken and helpless, eventually had Lee committed to an asylum where she endured months of electroshock therapy. Their marriage officially ended in 1956, but tragedy still loomed. Lee became pregnant with Olivier's child, offering a glimmer of hope for a fresh start, but she suffered a miscarriage, plunging her into a deeper depression. Her behavior became more erratic, and Olivier, desperate for stability, began a relationship with actress Joan Plowright. Plowright, 22 years younger than Olivier, was the calm presence he craved, but their union came with its own controversies. They had met while Plowright was playing Olivier's daughter on stage. Despite her fragile state, Lee wasn't ready to let Olivier go without a fight. She threatened to take her own life if he left her, but Olivier was determined to move on. After their divorce was finalized, Olivier married Plowright, and they quickly started a family, with 3 children born in rapid succession. For a time, Olivier seemed to have found the stable family life he had always longed for. He continued to shine professionally, helping to develop the National Theatre and directing legendary actors like Peter O'Toole and Anthony Hopkins. But life had more hardships in store. In 1967, Vivian Lee passed away from tuberculosis. Her partner discovered her body and immediately called Olivier. Despite their years apart, Olivier rushed to her side, insisting on staying with her until authorities arrived. It was a heartbreaking end to a relationship that had defined so much of his life. Olivier continued to work through his own health struggles, battling prostate cancer and other ailments. He remained a legend on stage and screen, but the scars of his tumultuous love with Lee never fully healed. Even in their darkest moments, their love story remained one of passion, artistry, and tragedy, a tale as dramatic as any they portrayed on screen. Laurence Olivier, even in his final years, continued to work in roles that he might have dismissed in earlier decades. These included Polaroid commercials and cameos in films of lesser quality. Despite these compromises, Olivier's resilience shone through. When his health permitted, he delivered Oscar-nominated performances well into his 70s. Olivier's personal life, particularly his sexuality, has been a subject of fascination and speculation for years. While he was open about some of his experiences with men, His memoirs included a passage about being tempted by another man, widely assumed to be Noel Coward. However, letters between Olivier and fellow Shakespearean actor Henry Ainley hinted at a brief but passionate affair in the 1930s, prior to his relationship with Vivien Leigh. Some biographers believe that Olivier also had a decade-long affair with comedian and actor Danny Kaye, which friends like Noel Coward and Princess Marina appeared to confirm. When asked about Olivier's possible relationships with men, his third wife, Joan Plowright, responded, "If he did, so what?" Not everyone was accepting of Olivier's potential same-sex relationships. His son Tarquin, from his first marriage, actively tried to suppress any such stories. Yet rumors persisted that another bond, one with Henry Ainley, a fellow Shakespearean actor, had left a lasting imprint on Olivier's life. Letters between the two suggested a brief yet passionate affair during the 1930s, a time when Olivier was still defining himself both personally and professionally. This relationship, though fleeting, may have marked a pivotal moment in Olivier's life, challenging him to confront aspects of his identity that he rarely spoke of publicly. Adding to the speculation was his long-standing connection with comedian Danny Kaye. Friends and contemporaries, including Noel Coward and Princess Marina, hinted at a decade-long romance between Olivier and Kaye. This relationship, though never confirmed outright, was said to have brought moments of joy and levity to Olivier's often intense life. But as much as Olivier's relationships with men intrigued the public and historians, it was his connection with Leigh that remained at the forefront of his heart. Even after their marriage ended, and despite the many challenges they faced, Leigh's presence loomed large in his life. In his later years, as he reflected on their time together, Olivier reportedly watched one of Leigh's films and broke down in tears, saying simply, "This was love." While speculation about Olivier's relationships continues to captivate audiences, it's clear that he loved deeply and intensely, whether in his marriages, rumored affairs, or friendships. Each connection shaped the man behind the legend, leaving a legacy as complex and multifaceted as the roles he portrayed on stage and screen. This deeply personal side of Laurence Olivier, full of passion, longing, and heartbreak, adds even more depth to his legacy as one of the greatest actors of all time. His life wasn't just a tale of professional triumphs, but a human story of love in all its forms, unpredictable, undeniable, and unforgettable. Laurence Olivier's final years were marked by a quiet yet extraordinary resilience. For 22 long years, he faced relentless battles with illness, including prostate cancer and the eventual kidney failure that took his life. Yet even as his body weakened, his spirit remained unyielding. Whenever his health permitted, he returned to what he loved most, the stage and screen. His determination to continue acting through immense physical challenges is a testament to his enduring passion for his craft. In 1989, at the age of 82, Olivier passed away from kidney failure. His death marked the end of an era, a farewell to a man who had defined excellence in acting for decades. The world mourned the loss of this iconic figure whose contributions to theater and cinema were unparalleled. For many, his passing was more than the end of a life. It was the closing act of a golden age of performance. But Olivier's legacy wasn't simply about the roles he played or the awards he won. It was about his humanity, the triumphs and struggles that made him more than just an icon. Even in death, his life continues to inspire. Olivier was not just a master of his craft. He was a man who refused to let the weight of illness silence his art. Those closest to him remembered his final days as reflective and deeply poignant. Friends and family spoke of a man who, despite his declining health, remained sharp, witty, and even optimistic. In the weeks leading up to his passing, He reportedly revisited moments from his storied career and the loves of his life. One of the most heart-wrenching stories from this time comes from his reflection on Vivien Leigh. Watching one of her films, he was said to have wept, murmuring, "This was love." It was a simple but profound acknowledgement of the bond they shared, a love that had endured its fair share of turbulence, but left an indelible mark on his heart. His funeral was a subdued yet dignified affair, befitting a man of his stature. Tributes poured in from around the globe, with peers and protégés alike recalling his immense influence on their own careers. Even those who had never met him felt the weight of his loss, as his work had touched countless lives across generations. To this day, Laurence Olivier remains a towering figure in the world of performance. His relentless dedication, even in the face of personal suffering, serves as an inspiration not just to actors, but to anyone striving for greatness in their chosen field. His passing may have closed the curtain on his life, but his story continues to captivate and inspire. Laurence Olivier's life was a tapestry of unparalleled talent, profound love, and deeply guarded secrets. His legacy as a master of stage and screen endures, yet it's the humanity behind his brilliance that continues to captivate us. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the remarkable life of Laurence Olivier. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories of history's most iconic figures. Until next time, stay curious and inspired.